Hey guys, one more really special module and training I wanted to give you this week that is really important. It has nothing to do with investing, nothing to do with trading, but it's really one of the core foundational things that a lot of people get hung up on when they start investing. Because a lot of people, I see this thrown around a lot, and I don't know, maybe it's just the construction talking. People say stuff like, risk tolerance or risk level or portfolio, risk management, stuff like that. And we're going to get a lot deeper into, making sure that your portfolio doesn't fall off a bridge like that, or making sure that, if the market goes down a bunch. I know recently the market has gone down like 30% a month, and I think my portfolio has gone up like 6,000, and it's like, it just all comes down to knowing what the hell to do. And so that's obviously stuff that you're going to learn over the course of the program. But there was one thing that I think is probably one of the most important things I could share with you, one of the most important things that really had a big influence on me when I was starting out investing, because it made me realize that, the only thing that's risky is not knowing what you're doing. And really, you can sort of eradicate risk by just learning how to do what you're doing really, really well. So just learning how to invest really, really well, because, I used to think that options were risky. I used to think that, short-term investing was risky. I used to think that maybe it was risky to even try to, beat indices, right? And of course, all that fades away through, for me, it was through experience. But what I realized, that was a little bit before I saw what I'm about to share with you. But then I realized the only reason that those, seemed risky in my mind, the only reason that those seemed uncertain in my mind, is because that I personally didn't understand them. So like next door, someone's building like a multi-$100 million apartment complex, and you can probably hear it. And for me, like, I think that's super risky. Like, why would you do that? But the reason why is because, like, I don't understand that market. I don't understand that industry. Real estate, is cool. Hard properties though is kind of hard. I don't know. That development's failed. I mean, I think it failed 100%. It failed once. They sold out a couple $100 million of apartments or condos or whatever, but it wasn't enough to get banks funding, and so now they're trying round two with a different investor, with a different manager. My point with sharing all this with you is that you're about to enter a world of investing. You're about to enter a world of portfolio management and really 9 to noon investing that I really, really hope opens your eyes to some of the insane opportunities in financial markets to have extraordinarily outperforming returns. And I want you to know going into it that there are a lot of people that are scared. And when I first started going through this, like, I was scared, and it took me years and years and years to get over that fear and actually start producing results. And I don't want it to take years and years, and like, this is not a year, like, this is not gonna last forever and ever, right? And so my objective, my goal, my intention here with this final little bonus here is to allow you to overcome, kind of leap over that fear. Because once you realize that like, fear is nothing more than a choice, right? It's just an emotion that you have total and complete control over. And I'm hoping that as this goes through, and as you continue to learn, that, a lot of the traditional investing things people say are like risky or whatever, you're gonna be able to overcome just because you understand it better. But obviously we're not there yet, right? We're still working on our foundation. We're still working, kind of at the beginning. And so what I want to do is I want to share with you a clip from After Earth that I think it's a movie that came out a while back. And, I had this when I was starting. I think it would have just totally changed everything. It allowed me to really shortcut probably years of being slow. And, I remember I used to be super excited if I could make like 5% a month. And I remember I would like throw like a party if I could make like 10 or 20% a month. And I think this comes back to set point. Like, my set point used to be a little bit lower, well, a dramatic amount lower. But I remember that, and I remember thinking, like, who would want to sextuple their portfolio in a week? And so when I sextupled my portfolio in a week, I wasn't ready for that, and I missed out on a lot of gains, lost a lot of money, because my mind wasn't in the right place because of fear, right? I was fearful of, well, if I take this gain, that would be awful, or if I make all this money, that would be, like, that was my mind, right? And we're going to dive a lot more into this next week with the Secrets to the Millionaire Mind Masterclass. But before we do, I want to share with you this clip. So the first thing I'm going to share with you right now is sort of the introduction of this movie, just so that you know what we're talking about. This is the introduction. It's like the first minute and a half of this movie, okay? So let's cut over to that real quick.
cross between none and none heavy in distress.
Engines 1 and 2 are offline. We're losing her. Go! Go!
I've heard stories of Earth. A paradise. Until we destroyed it. The founding of the United Ranger Corps 1,000 years ago was a global military effort, an evacuation of Earth. The Rangers would lead the settlement of mankind's new home, Nova Prime. But we were not alone. The aliens released the Ursa. Monsters, bred to kill humans. Technically blind, the Ursa sees humans based on the pheromones we secrete when frightened. They literally smell our fear. Humankind was again in danger of extinction, and again turned to the Rangers for the answer. And that answer came in the form of the Prime Commander Cypher Rage, the original ghost. He's believed to be so completely free of fear that to an Ursa, he is invisible. This phenomena is known as ghosting.
All right, awesome. So now you've seen that, and you know that this guy, the really important thing to take away from that, like the movie's great, like 100%, but the really important thing to take away from that was there was that one guy at the end, like Will Smith, right? And he comes in and he's like this super badass, kills the alien things because they can only see people if they're like excreting fear or excreting like stuff from their body. I don't know exactly, but the plot basically is that the creatures are blind and they can only see people based off of their fear. And you're going to see a little later on, the main character is that little kid. He's the guy who's on the force. He was the narrator. He has seen a lot of harsh stuff. Like those creatures have killed a lot of people in a sense. They killed his sister. I mean, it's a sad. You know, so I'm not going to spoil the entire movie, but I do want to get this one thing across to you, which is the importance of kind of fear management, because a lot of what people consider risk just comes from fear. I look at, you look at some of the best hedge funds in the world. There are a lot of people very recently, I remember Bill Ackman came on TV lately, and he spent like 5 minutes like screaming about how the economy was going to be the worst ever, and it was going to be the end of the world, and hell was coming, and everyone's going to explode. And I remember while he was there on TV saying that, he had a lot of people that were working at his firm unloading billions of these credit default swap spreads contracts that they had in international currency markets. And I remember the guy invested, I think it was $20 million, and off the top of my head, I think it was about $4 billion. So he bought $20 million of this insurance-y kind of thing to protect himself in case of a downturn, and that turned into $4 billion in the span of about a month, which was just insane. And while this guy is standing there on TV screaming about how everyone should be selling, he's sitting there closing out his positions and selling everything and getting back into the market, and then it spikes up afterwards because he's a genius. And I've seen this happen so many times, where you have these institutions that are telling the masses to go sell. I remember back when Bitcoin was moving from like a couple $100 to like $1,000 and then to a couple grand, there was this giant fund that was telling everyone to dump and it'd be terrible, everyone should sell crypto. And I remember at the time Bitcoin was at like $2,000 or something, and the whole market just crashed to like 1,800. And that 1,800 was the minimum price for, I think, the next, like a year or something. It went from 1,800 to like 20 grand or whatever. And I remember I bought a ton when that happened, because I was like, holy crap, I can't believe this is happening. I probably should have bought a ton when those other fund guys. Really cool stuff. And the point with that is that these are people that made a lot of money, 10x, 100x, 1,000x returns, because they weren't afraid to try something new. They weren't afraid to get, I'm not gonna lie, it is not particularly simple to buy credit default swaps. It is not particularly easy. I mean, some people don't even know what that is, right? And you'll learn sort of more in month 2 about that stuff. But if you have fear, you're not gonna, a vast minority of people in the American financial markets have access or invest in these more complex, derivative investments that actually have the upside of thousands of individual investments if you just are investing in stocks, if you're just investing in bonds, if you're just investing in cryptocurrencies, and they present an opportunity for substantial and exponential portfolio growth in very brief periods when you know what you're doing, which is what I hope to give you over time. But what's important is to see sort of at the beginning of this movie, the actor like Smith, he is very, very successful at killing these aliens or defending the Earth or whatever, because he has no fear, and he's always there. And I want to kind of translate this into financial markets. The best investors on the planet are always there, constantly willing to try new things, constantly willing to go into new territories. And the one thing that vastly separates some of the best performance I've ever personally had or personally seen from my worser times or just what most people invest in, it comes down to a lot of people are scared to get to that next level, to move up to that next level. And so what I want to go through now is this second clip from this movie, and it's this big, amazing epilogue. This dialogue really was just the epiphany for me. It was like, oh my God, this is amazing. I can't believe this. So let's cut over to that scene real quick.
Dad. Dad.
I'm here.
How'd you do it? How'd you first ghost?
Out for a run. Alone. Something we're never supposed to do. Ursa D. Camos, right in front of me. I go for my cutlass. Shoots his pincer right through my shoulder. Next thing I know, we're over the cliff, falling 30 meters straight down into the river. We settle onto the bottom. It's on top of me. But it's not moving. And I realize he's trying to drown me. I'm thinking I'm gonna die. I'm gonna die. I cannot believe this is how I'm gonna die. I can see my blood bubbling up, mixing with the sunlight, shining through the water. And I think, wow, that's really pretty. And everything slows down. I see his pincer through my shoulder. And I decide I don't want that in there anymore. So I pull it out. And he lets me go. And more than that, I can tell it can't find me. Doesn't even know where to look. And it dawned on me. Fear is not real. The only place that fear can exist is in our thoughts of the future. It is a product of our imagination, causing us to fear things that do not at present and may not ever exist. That is near insanity, Qatar. Now, do not misunderstand me. Danger is very real, but fear is a choice. We are all telling ourselves a story. And that day mine changed.
Awesome. Okay. So good. So deep. It's just so powerful. And so what you see there is, like, you realize that all of a sudden, like, fear is something that you have total and complete control over. Now, I don't know if you know this, but everyone's got a voice inside their head, okay? And you have two choices when it comes to that voice. The first choice is what, and I don't want to, like, make you think that you need to follow this path, because you do not need to follow this path. But I just want you to understand where I'm coming from, okay? 70 to 90% of people on this planet, that voice inside their head is negative 70 to 90% of the time. This is for basically everyone, right? 70 to 90% of the time, that voice is negative. That's for like 99% of people. And then there's that 1% of people that decide that they're going to actually change something. They're going to make a choice. They're going to make a decision. And they're going to make that voice in their head not negative, but positive, okay? And when all of a sudden you surround yourself with positive thoughts, and instead of thinking about, oh, this investment's gonna fail, or oh, I'll never be able to make that kind of return, blah, 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 blah. Instead, you ask yourself, like, how can these investments succeed? How can I turn this into a winning position? Maybe I need to exit this and get into something else. How can I shift my balance? How can I shift my portfolio balance to have greater success? And when you just make that simple shift, all of a sudden it is so much easier to get successful results and overcome fear, right? And so a lot of times, some of that fear that can come from, being scared to make an investment, being scared to try something new, being scared to learn something, a lot of times that comes from sort of this internal fear of the mind trying to shut itself out to new opportunities. And that can, for me, it literally cut years and years and years and years and years and years and years off of my investing success. And it was a very tough thing to overcome. And then I realized, and I internalized, that fear is nothing more than a choice, and it's nothing more than a mental decision. The mindset that you have, whether you have a negative voice speaking yourself or what you want is a positive voice speaking yourself, you have a decision. The decision is yours to say, look, I'm going to cut off negative thoughts, only focus on positivity. And the decision is yours when fear rises to come up and say, look, I understand the dangers of things. I understand that I probably don't want to risk my entire portfolio on one investment. But you need, and that's totally reasonable, right? But you gotta be able to overcome fear, because when it's in your mind, that's all it is. It's just in your mind. And a vast majority of fear that arises, it comes not from actual danger, but just from being afraid of the future, being afraid of, like, the what ifs, or the stuff that has a very low probability of happening. And when you sort of start to apply proper, any reasonable amount of diversification and risk management, that doesn't become an issue. It just turns into, look, logic-based buy or sell, whatever the asset is, whatever it is. And that is so crucial for your success as an investor. And to kind of drive this point home, what I want to do now is I want to cut to the last scene from the movie. It's one of the final scenes in the movie. So if you are going to watch the movie, I would recommend you pause this and get going, because it kind of is going to spoil a little bit of it. But this is this last scene, and basically what happens is the kid, who's kind of the main character, he goes out and he has this massive fight for basically the whole movie with this, like, deathly creature thing that wants to kill him for a bulk of the second part of the half of the movie. And I want to kind of really quickly, we'll kind of speed through the fight, just so that you understand sort of the grounds of what's going on here and where they're coming from. But then there's one part that really matters. There's one part that is a total game changer, and that's when this guy is actually able to remove fear from his mind, from his body. I want you to see the process that he goes through to do that. I want you to see the eternal and personal state of constant fulfillment and also constant tranquility that he achieves through this state of just intentionally removing fear from his mind. And this really is so critical because it makes you realize that fear is a choice, it is a decision, it is something that you have complete control over. And as you start to get deeper and deeper into this program, you're going to start to make more and more investments that have more and more upside and also more and more downside if you don't actually understand what we teach before that point. You don't implement what we do before that point, right? Which is why it's really critical that you understand at a deep level what I teach you, because if you don't, you can get messed up pretty hard. And so it's important to just go through this in order, and please, please, please don't wait a year and then come back and then go through everything at once, because if you do, I can't personally say that would lead to good results, right? This is a process I've been going through, for almost a decade now, and it's not something that you can just do in 6 hours. It just doesn't happen. What I'm hoping to do is obviously make that much shorter so you can have better success. So here's that last clip, and then we'll kind of finish this up.
Climb in here, okay? It won't be able to smell you. Dad!
Root yourself in this present moment now. Sight, sound, smell. What do you feel?
You're still in that box. It's time to come out.
isn't that like massive? Isn't that huge? He has his success. He wins the result. You know, everyone's happy. The whole thing ends great because he's able to what? He's able to take his emotions and just get rid of them. And now, I don't want you guys to think that this was easy for this guy, because throughout the entire movie, he was struggling to control his emotions. He was lying. He was, you know, unfaithful, blah, 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 blah. But at the end, he pulls through, and he does something that is so critical for your investing success. He takes the emotions and he separates them from himself. He pushes them away, and he says, look, when I am in battle, when I am in my, you know, peak state, when I'm doing what really, really matters, which for you is investing, I need to focus exclusively on logic. And that's exactly kind of what he does here, is he takes that fear, puts it aside, and he saves his life because of it, right? And that's really the big message. That's really the big goal, is that while it might not be you fighting a deathly creature, it might not be a life or death battle, when it comes down to investing, the success of your portfolio, when your returns are going to be completely dependent on your ability to overcome fear, push it out of your life, and make investments based on logic. And that is so critical, especially as we start to get deeper in here, is that anytime fear starts to arise, or anytime I teach you something new and you're like, oh, that's kind of scary, or anytime you learn something, you're like, wow, that's you know, harsh, you gotta take that emotional response, package it up, and just poof, right? You don't internalize it. You don't try to, you know, shove it into I think they have some dump trucks over there. You don't try to like push it all together and compact it, because that'll lead obviously to negative emotional responses inside you. Instead, you have to freely let it flow. And I know this concept might be new to you. This concept might be something that sounds a little bit difficult to do, and I'm not gonna lie, like, this is highly dependent on your ability to master meditation, which we're gonna cover a little bit later in the program, because I want to introduce this idea to you before we get into meditation, because meditation is a lot. Is a very, 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 it's something that I can't cover this early. It's much deeper and extraordinarily critical for your investing success. At least from my experience, and experience from every single student I've ever seen and every successful investor I've ever known. But anyway, with that said, it really all comes down to understanding that you're about to go through a process that very few people actually embark on. And the reason why is a lot of people are scared. And some people, they're scared of, you know, outperforming. They're scared of being more. They're scared of doing more. Some people, I know this sounds crazy, but I've seen this happen so many times. Some people are scared that they're going to make so much money investing that they're going to have to spend their time managing their investments. I don't get the logic behind it. It makes no sense to me. But there are some people that are so scared that they don't even make it this far in the program. And so, you know, for you being here, I commend you. I am really impressed. And I hope that you got a lot from this little bonus here about fear, because it really is one of the most important things to consciously remove from your investing career, and hopefully from your life. I mean, you just live such a much more tranquil life when there is just no more fear. There is a much lower amount of these negative emotions. And you know, from every study I've ever seen, like scientifically or from journals or anything like that, like, once you're able to remove these negative emotions from your life, it has a direct correlation to how long you live, because it reduces what? It reduces stress, reduces hardships, reduces personal harm. And this is something we're obviously going to get into a lot more when we do get to meditation, which is a little bit away. But it's really important, because this is really something that shifts almost every aspect of your life. And you know, you can live longer, you can have healthier life, a happier life, and at the end of the day, you're gonna have more success with your investments. So, with that said, thank you so much for making it to the end of week 3, and I cannot wait to see you in week 4. All right, sweet, bye.